What's up, guys? Mystic Mac here. I just wanted to stop by and do kind of a little first look about the NBA main slate today. Um, there's got a 4 game slate. We got a few games early in the morning. I'm not going to touch base on those. I'm not going to play those myself. So just going to focus on the 4 main games today. What I'm going to kind of do, first I'm going to kind of go through a little bit of my process. Here you can see my NBA team dashboard page. We'll go through my NBA player model, and then maybe we'll go through and try to build a lineup or two and see how that works for us. Obviously, it's really early in the day. There's a lot of injury news that's still out there, so we can have to take a little wait and see approach on that. But as of right now, it could be a good little starter for us just to kind of get a good idea of some of the good spots to attack today. So first off, we can kind of just take a look here at the team dashboard page. This just shows each team on the slate. Here we got their pace, we got their ranking, opponent's pace, opponent's ranking, and then we get a little projected pace here. So it's just a formula that creates just a projected pace for the game, and then this is the pace differential. So as you can see here, it shows that Denver is really the only one that's benefiting from a good pace game. So we can see here that they are going up against the Rockets. They rank 28th in the pace of play, where the Rockets rank second. So this is going to be a good environment to kind of a target for the Denver side. As we can see over here, we kind of go through the Vegas. This shows us the spread. So we got, as we can see, Cleveland here, 9-point underdogs to Toronto. Come down here, Denver, 2.5-point underdogs to Houston. Golden State, 11-point dogs to San Antonio. And OKC, 2-point dogs to the Mavericks. And then we got the team total here. And then over here, we got the blowout risk. And this just right here is going to assess like kind of a percentage of what is going to happen for a potential blowout. So we can see the lower number is going to be more of the games that we need to have more of some worry about potential blowouts. And you can see that's going to be the high underdogs like Golden State and Cleveland. Let's see. So we can move on over here. We can see offense efficiency, opponent defensive efficiency goes by each team. And we come over here, team point per game. And this just gives us a differential between what Vegas is implying their team total to be to what their team average point per games have been throughout the course of the season. Kind of lets us know too who is kind of in a good spot. There's not really anything that noticeable outside of Houston kind of shows them to be in a poor spot. Dallas kind of shows to be in a little bit of a poor spot. Outside of that, not too much to take away there. And then we kind of get over here where we just get a little bit of metrics. So we get to see rebounds per game. Here we got points in the paint per game, fast break points per game, percentage of points that come from 3-pointers, free throw attempts per game, and then we got all of the same here for the opponent's defense. So we can kind of see, just get a bird's eye view of the slate and kind of see maybe who is going to be in some favorable matchups and maybe what teams are in not so favorable matchups. And so from here, I like to transition and go into the player model. Here we're going to be able to see each player on the slate. We're going to be able to see the Vegas info. We'll see the fantasy points per game. We'll see fantasy points per minute, true usage, minutes, matchup, points per game, pace, advanced stats, etc. We'll go through all of this. This just kind of gives you, lets you dive a little bit deeper into the slate, so you guys get a pretty good idea of who is in some good spots and who is maybe in some bad spots. So we can see, we kind of already went through the Vegas total. We don't need to kind of go over this. It's the same type of stuff that I mentioned. Assesses the blowout risk, team total, spread, fantasy points per game. We show what they are averaging so far on the year, and it also shows here what they're averaging in the last 5, and then we get the plus-minus differential. The same thing, fantasy points per minute, whether you're in the season, and their last 5. Who's averaging more fantasy points per minute in the last 5? Who's averaging worse? And that way we can kind of, after we see this, we can kind of dig in and dive in a little deeper and to find out maybe reasons why. We got true usage. Last 5, and on the season, minutes on the season, last 5, differential. Then we get the point guards. So this is for the point guards for each position, defensive efficiency per each position, what their opponents rank in, team efficiency, And then this is the DraftKings points, basically like a DVP, offense versus position. And this is going to just basically show, so like saying here, that Golden State allows 3.3 DraftKings points over the league average to opposing point guards. Here it just kind of shows the percentage of time each person plays at that position. So we can see Murray plays 65% of the time at point guard. Same here with the points per game, what we saw earlier, pace, what we saw earlier. And now we can start diving into a little bit more of the advanced metrics over here. So we can see we have each player's offensive efficiency, each player's defensive real plus minus, assist percentage, rebound percentage, blocks per game, steals per game, points in the paint per game, fast break points per game, 3 points attempted, 3-point percentage, free throw attempts, free throw percentage, field goal attempts, last 5 field goal attempts, field goal plus minus, right? So this kind of gives us a good idea, so we can always know, kind of look at matchups. Say that if we know that Kai Bauman is going to be going up against Dejounte Murray, we can kind of look and see that maybe Kai Bauman has a favorable matchup, or not a decent matchup going against Murray, who is a below average defender on the season. And then from here, we can kind of always, I like to look at the plus minus differential of the field goal attempts. Who is averaging more field goal attempts in the last 5? So we can see down here, Russell Westbrook. Russell Westbrook's averaging 4.7 field goal attempts in the last 5. He's averaging almost 26 field goal attempts per game in his last 5. These are things that I kind of like to look at when we're doing that. Now we can go over here. This is the opponent's plus minus percentage by each position, right? So each position is going to be different. So kind of what this is telling us here. So let's just say, for a good example, let's go right here. So Dejounte Murray will stay in this game. It's showing that the Warriors surrender a 20% increase in production to steals to opposing point guards. So this is showing that this is a favorable matchup for someone like Dejounte Murray, who we can see kind of come over here, that he averages 1.8 steals per game, right? So we can kind of see this could be a favorable matchup in that regard. Same thing over here, right? This is a little less than 10% of production, 9% of production to the 3-point percentage. Or I'm sorry, not 3-point percentage, but 3-point production. 8.8% production to rebounds to opposing point guards, right? So we can always see, it's very easy to get like a grand view of the slate and kind of see, oh, this team allows this many rebounds per game, or maybe they allow 20% production to rebounds, but it becomes a lot more beneficial. We can figure out what positions they are allowing that to, right? Maybe they allow maybe someone allows a 20% increase in production and rebounds to power forwards, but maybe they only allow a 6% production and rebounds to centers, right? And so that's going to show us that maybe we want to target the power forwards more so than anything. So from here, all of this stuff is used, and it comes up with my projections and my minute projections. And so we can see here, we have their salary, we have their DraftKings projections, we have what their points needed on this slate just to hit cash game value. And then we got the plus minus, right? It's just the differential between their DK projection and their points needed. And then we got their minutes projection. All of this stuff that we see, advanced stats, scoring, opponents, pace of play, points per game, matchup, Vegas, fantasy points per minute, usage, etc., are all used in conjunction to come up with this. And so this just gives us a good idea, maybe who isn't going to be in a good spot on the slate, maybe some people that we can target that maybe some people aren't going to be targeting, right? Because is there a huge significant difference, right, between, let's say, James Harden 316, Draymond Green 291, right? Or maybe better matchup, Dejounte Murray 3.24, Kyle Lowry or Alec Burks, 2.32, right? Or Kai Bauman 4.67. Like, so it's something that we need to kind of really focus on when we try to dive deep into the slate. So that's kind of just a a simple view of kind of my process of what I do. Obviously, I spend a little bit more time going through each player. But now let's kind of dig in. Let's go into DraftKings lobby. Okay, NBA, and let's do a little lineup here. Let's create a couple GPP lineups for that main game, main slate. These aren't going to be lineups I will probably use. Just first look lineups before really diving deeper once we get some injury news. All right. Let's go. Oh yeah, and so if anyone's ever interested in any of this type of this data, I do post this data Monday through Friday. Now that football season's nearly ending, I will be posting a lot more often, even perhaps during the weekends more. All this stuff is on my Patreon page, Patreon, Mystic Mac, DFS. It's posted in the link here on Reddit. You guys can just check it out. I got a few different tiers here that you guys can look at, but we can get into that another time. All right, so let's create some lineups. So first thing that we kind of know, we know we have some value situation in Golden State. D'Angelo Russell, out. Willie Cauley-Stein, out. Well, he was at least listed doubtful last I checked, but it looks like he is now out. Either way, kind of expecting that. Let's see, and Kevin Looney, out. So this is going to bring up some nice value here, some popular value, right? A lot of people are going to be on this. A lot of people are going to be focusing in here on Kai Bauman at 3.1K. And as we can kind of look back over here at the player model, we can see that I have been projected as a really strong play. I've been projected here at 21.5 points, 26 to 27 minutes projected. He is, let's see, a 0.78 fantasy point per minute player, so he's not a very effective player. His last 5 games, he's at a 12.8 usage percentage, so he's not a high usage percent player. But he's 3.1K, projected to play about 27 minutes. In a pretty favorable matchup, as we can see here. The Spurs allow about 5% of production to opposing. Allows about a 5% production in points, 9% production in 3 points, and a 6% production in assists to opposing point guards. So it is a pretty good spot for Kai Bauman. Even though he isn't your best player, but I can see a lot of people are going to be going here. Next up, I think a lot of people are going to be looking at Marquise Chris. And this is a guy that I personally have a little bit more interest in than Kai Bauman right now at this point. And we can see, as we look at Marquise Chris, let's go, all right. I have him projected as the best value on the slate. He's 4.1K, 27 DraftKings points, 26 minutes. And what I like about him is that he is a 1.1 fantasy point per minute player. His last 5 games, he has a 24% true usage percentage. So he's just a much more productive player. As you can see, he has a 15.9% assist percentage, 14.6 rebound percentage, and he's averaging just a little less than a block per game. He's the type of guy that I'm going to want to start my lineup with. So I'm going to put him power forward. We're going to start Marquise Chris. So we're going to get that out of the way. That's my favorite value. So I always like to start generally with a couple of my favorite value plays. And then kind of go from there, right? So if you're doing a cash lineup, first things you'd be doing, more than likely, plugging in these guys here, right? But I'm not going to be playing cash on this. I will probably be playing cash today, but I'm not going to be building it for this. This is going to be a GPP kind of first look. So looking at this here, I kind of like a pivot to another cheaper guy, Jeremiah Grant. I'm going to put him in the forward position. I like to go here. I like to start a couple of my values here. I like to get different. Let's start with Marquise Chris, Jeremiah Grant. Jeremiah Grant's going to be a guy that can have a number of different ways to kind of hit value for you. As we can see here, I have him projected. He's not popping off the charts by any stretch of the imagination. Just a little bit overvalue, but he's going to be playing 30 minutes a game. And we can see here it's a good matchup. It's a pace-up spot for them. Houston allows an 8% increase in production and points to opposing power forwards, 9% in 3 points, 7% in rebound, 11% in steals. This is going to be a good spot for Jeremiah Grant. He's always a very risky player, right? He's never going to be a guy that you can lock in. He's not going to be your cash can guy. But I think he's a very interesting GPP play tonight that's probably going to go under the radar. So I like to go there. So we got our two values. Let's look at some of the studs on the slate. We have Luka, questionable. We're going to need to monitor him. I think he's a fine play. I probably won't be going there much tonight. Tonight is honestly just feeling like a more balanced lineup. James Harden. I think I never want to say fade James Harden, but if we're going to be looking at maybe who James Harden's potentially going to be going up against, he's going to be going up against the backcourt of Denver that is very tough defensively. We can see here we have Gary Harris. Let's see, Gary Harris over here, 2.4, 3 defensive real plus minus. This is one of the better defensive players in the league. Now we can come over here and let's look at Will Barton. Will Barton having a breakout year, even better defender, 3.06. These are both the toughest matchups on the slate for shooting guards and small forwards. And so I think James Harden, if you needed a reason to fade James Harden, that's your reason right there. Like I said, I will never tell you to fade James Harden. I personally will probably not be playing James Harden tonight. I would rather play Russ, who's in a little better spot. Jamal Murray is still a very solid defender, but he's less than 10K, and I kind of like the more balanced approach. I don't think I'll probably be getting to Russ myself, but I do prefer Russ to Harden. My favorite player above 9K is going to be Nikola Jokic. I think that he is just in a really strong spot here. Like I said, we already know it's a pace-up spot. Houston, Clint Capella is a solid defender, but it's joking, right? We're gonna get this guy who's potentially gonna be able to play maybe 32 minutes, and if he can get to 32 minutes in a competitive game, and that's something we need to look at when we're building lineups is to understand there's an issue if we go all in on Golden State, who does appear to be in good matchup or to be in a good spot, but if these guys get blown out, maybe a guy like Draymond Green's not going to pan out, right? Maybe he gets pulled with 8-9 minutes left in the fourth quarter, and so those are things that we really need to think about. So competitive games on a 4-game slate is going to make things, I think, very interesting. So I kind of like to focus a little bit on that. So I'm going to go and plug him in there at the center position. And from here, we got about 6.4K left. One guy I do have a pretty good interest in is on the Toronto side. So a lot of these guys are priced up, right? Lowry, 8.8K. Van Vliet, 8.4K. Like, that's crazy to me. I went to Wichita State, where Van Vliet played college when he was there, and I remember watching him play, him and Ron Baker, those final 4 years. Like, those were just fun times, and to see him at 8.4K, it's just crazy. Serge Ibaka up to 7.3K, right? Like, these guys got a significant boost in price, but I honestly like Lowry, Van Vliet, and Ibaka quite a bit. All these guys are in really good spots against Cleveland. I hate to even rank them because they're very tough. But as of right now, probably would lean. Probably because I do have some Grant, I do have Chris, I do kind of have those forward positions kind of locked down, Lowry and Van Vliet. I'm going to go with the kind of just a little bit cheaper Van Vliet here. I think, like I said, all of these guys are in really good spots. Serge Ibaka is in a really good spot. He pops off my model. I think he's the second highest value on the slate, even in front of Allen. But I'm going to go with Van Fleet here. So now we got 5.9K. Next spot I want to go to is, let's see, point guard. I want Deontay Murray, 5.9K. He's probably not going to play more than 30, 31 minutes. More than likely we could see him probably play for about 28, as we can see 27. But this is a really good spot. We mentioned earlier how the Warriors surrender a 20% increase in production to steals to opposing point guards. Murray was averaging 1.8 steals per game. I like to look his way. I think San Antonio is very sneaky tonight. I like looking Murray. I also like to look at DeMar DeRozan at 7.1K. So I'm going to go ahead and plug him in here for now. He could potentially get moved out if we need, because like I said, there is potential blowout risk. Granted, I do not weigh the blowout risk as much for teams that are favored, right? So if you're favored by 11, you're going to get there somehow, right? So where I will knock you a little bit, you're not going to get knocked completely, because like I said, you should be getting there. Someone's going to be doing the production to get you to the blowout. So from here we got 5.3K left. All right, here we can go multiple different ways. I kind of want to get, if I'm not going to be playing Russ, I'm not going to be playing Harden, I want to get a piece of this Houston game, right? Oops. So let's look at Houston here. I think a lot of people here, Daniel House, right? 5.6K. That's just a lot for this type of game. For this type of player, and he's a better player than PJ Tucker. There's no doubt about that, right? 18, 12, 15, 10 field goal attempts, right? His last 4 games, like that's 32, 41, 35, 32 minutes. That's what we like to see. I do think he will be, I wouldn't say heavy owned, but I do think he will be more owned than a guy like PJ Tucker, right? PJ Tucker, he's going to play 33, 37, 38, 40 minutes. He's going to play those minutes. He's not going to shoot as much, 7-7, 6-6. However, if he gets hot, I think he's a sneaky guy to play. I think he's a guy that is going to go under the radar. I don't, 10% maybe. If we can get him a 5%, even better. So now we're going to go, we have a guard position. 5.9K. Here, for me, generally, right, I don't like to save or have a lot of money left over in NBA, right? I like to top it out at $300-400. If I have $500-600, I normally like to look and to see if there's any adjustments that can be made, if there's any improvements that can be made on any lineup. However, this is a 4-game slate, so I don't suggest leaving $1,000 on the table, right? $1,500 to $2,000 left on the table. But if you leave $400, $500, maybe even $600 on the table, I would be okay with that. And here, Alec Burks. This is a guy I like a pretty good amount, and it kind of fits absolutely perfect to get him in. This is going to be a good spot with D'Angelo Russell out. He's going to get a boost. He's going to more than likely get the start at point guard. I like to look Alec Burks' way. He's going to shoot you he's more than likely going to shoot 4 to 6 threes a game. And if he gets hot, he has the potential to get you, like I said, 48, 50 points a game. He has that potential. He has that upside. And on a 4-game slate, I want a guy that's going to be able to get me 45, 50 points at 5.3K. I like going his way. 600 left over. I think I can live with that, right? We can look around and see maybe PJ Tucker. If we wanted to look at potentially moving around PJ Tucker. OG. OG is in a pretty good spot, right? We could look to maybe move up to OG if you like OG, right? There's a tons of different ways that you could go. If you wanted to maybe look at moving, let's see. We didn't want to go DeRozan. Not real much more. You can go there. You could end up maybe going down to a guy like Will Barton. Maybe you wanted to get off him. Maybe you wanted Daniel House, right? And there's just a bunch of different ways. So just always be moving around and never just settle on one thing, right? Like just explore your options. You can always go back to the lineup you made, but see what type of movements you can make. And try to build the most optimal lineup you can. Well, if you're making a GPP lineup, sometimes it's going to be less than optimal. But this is just kind of something I like to do, right? So that's just kind of one little way I like to go about the slate. It's kind of an early route that I'm looking. I do know that a few other players that I will have some interest in. I think Lynn Robinson for Golden State has a little bit of potential, has a little bit of interest. He's going to be playing some log in those minutes. He's not a super productive player, as we see. But on a 4-game slate, he could get some blowout run. I think he has some interest. Outside of there, those are generally kind of the main guys I'm going to be looking at. One thing I really like to do, and I really think that is very important when it comes to DFS in general, not just NBA, NFL, NHL, MLB, any sport that you really play, is to diversify your lineups as much as possible. I really can't stress that enough, right? So if you're building 4 to 5 lineups and you really like Lowry, you really like Van Vliet, right? Play them in a couple, right? If you're playing 5 and you really like them, play them in 2 or 3. But also, on the 2 of them that you don't play Lowry or you don't play Van Vliet, play Ibaka, right? Or go play OG, right? Play some of these guys. Hedge off some of the guys that you like. Don't focus on just going all in. I see too many people that will get on a player they like and they'll just go all in on that type of player, right? And like maybe they won't go 100%, but they'll play 70%, right? And they won't look at that 30% chance that that they have the 30% of the lineups they don't have him. Well, if you're already investing so much in Kyle Lowry, and if those 30% of lineups you're not using him, you want those 30% of lineups are going to be useful if Kyle Lowry fails, right? So if Kyle Lowry does fail, who's going to benefit? And generally, someone else on the team is going to benefit, right? If Kyle Lowry has a bad game, more than likely, maybe Van Vliet's going to have a really good game, or Serge is going to have a really good game. And so focus on that percentage there, right? Even though we get to like a point where we get to the point sometimes we listen to other touts, we listen to whoever, and we get on a play and it feels like it's impossible to fail. They're in just such a good spot. At the end of the day, guys, we're trying to predict the future of what's going to happen. Like players, human beings have to go out and play the game. And who knows what's going to happen? Like, even though it feels like we have a very good idea of what's going to happen, and there's a lot of data out there that can lead us into the right path, we still don't know for certain on what's going to happen. So, hedge, diversify your lineups, maximize your growth, minimize your risk. I can't stress that enough. I had a pretty decent week even in NFL this past week. I know it's getting out of hand. But Aaron Jones was my highest on running back. I had him in 60% of my lineups. I made 10 lineups. That means 4 lineups that I had did not have Aaron Jones in them. And I had my 4th or 5th biggest week of the season. I had 120% ROI. And the reason I did that, because I went with an Aaron Rodgers game stack. And that is kind of, and those were my biggest lineups of the week, was going with that game stack. They got behind in the game and they were forced to throw. Hit a big second half. Him, Allen Lazard, Devontae Adams, right? And that was kind of, I think I wasn't certain. I didn't love Aaron Rodgers on the week. I really liked Aaron Jones, but we're trying to predict what's going to happen. So if Aaron Rodgers or if Aaron Jones doesn't have that good game, who was likely to have the good game? Aaron Rodgers, right? So those are just things that we really need to stay on top of. Like, it's much more than just data, and it's much more than just playing guys in favorable matchups. If you want to be successful long term, diversify. So I think that's going to do it. This went a little longer than I expected. I'm honestly going to try and do this a little bit more than normal. Um, Maybe a couple times a week now that football is winding down. I'm also probably going to do a football one for the playoff slate, Thursday or Friday. Get that out to you guys. So I appreciate every single one of you guys. I hope you guys have a good day. I hope you guys crush all of your lineups. See you.